All right, good to have you on Flipside. Good afternoon. My name is Daisy Leo Asikidi. Well, today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. Unfortunately, it's not the International Day, Observance Day of it, but it's close. On April 23rd yearly, the world marks the Book Day, the World Book Day as declared by UNESCO, and Copyright Day. Now, between April 23rd to today, we've had things that are related to books, language. We've also had the English Language Day. And so we just want to merge both into one, because most of the books we even have right here in Nigeria written in English language. And I have a very special person in the house today that will be creating awareness on creating awareness and promoting the reading culture amongst our students and pupils, amongst everyone actually, not only those in school. So you could be retired, but you should still read and all that stuff, how you can go about it. That's what we'll be talking about on the show today, promoting learning culture. But before you meet my guest, you know how we do it on the show. We'll go on a quick break. We'll take the UN message on this day. And we also have a program for the Children's Day very close by. So May 27. We need to create awareness for that one. So we'll pass you that information as well. And when we return to the studio, you'll meet my guest and we'll get talking about the World Book Day.
Hooray! It's World Book Day! The enjoyment of reading books is celebrated on World Book Day on April 23rd. It's a day to celebrate the privilege of being able to read, so head to the library or curl up on the couch and just be a bookworm. World Book Day was established by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, on April 23, 1995. This day was chosen because it was the anniversary of the death of William Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the buzz. Children who regularly read for enjoyment have higher test scores, develop a broader vocabulary, increased general knowledge, and a better understanding of other cultures than their non-reading counterparts. With its scent of printed pages and glossy covers, books are a valuable aspect of society, but this wasn't always the case. When vocabulary and writing were first developed thousands of years ago, clay tablets were used. This evolved into parchment and papyrus. By the mid-15th century, the printing press revolutionized books to become what they are today and made them readily accessible for everyone. Thanks to this ingenious invention, we are able to enjoy the prose and poetry of countless authors and poets, from Shakespeare to Tolstoy to George R.R. Martin. Did you know that in 3500 BC, the Sumerians engraved their first alphabet into clay tablets? That was over 5,000 years ago. In 858 AD, China printed the very first book using wood blocks with characters on them. More than 100 countries observe World Book Day, and why not? Reading is a stellar form of entertainment, and it requires that you use your imagination rather than simply watching visuals on a screen. There's also something so therapeutic about the actual feel of a book.
Okay, so that was a video from YouTube, downloaded from the United Nations page on World Book Day. It's really important that we know how to read and enjoy reading. This year's theme is Share a Story. Okay, if you don't read books, you might not really have much stories to share. Interestingly, I have someone who is not only a reader, but she's also a writer. So you're going to meet my guest at this time. I have Dr. Nusa Aladeshelu. You've seen her on television before. She's a doctor of guidance and counseling. She has a PhD in guidance and counseling, and then she's also the founding president of African Women Empowerment Guild. And not only that, presently she's the state coordinator of the South Professional Women Association. It's good to have you on the show, ma.
Thank you, Daisy.
She's an author of several books. Questions Girls Ask, Questions Boys Ask, Questions Spencer Ask, and several other books like that. So we're going to talk about this. I mean, which other person am I going to bring on the Word Book Day? Someone who reads, someone who teaches, someone who writes. Exactly. So it's all encompassing.
Exactly.
So this year they said we should share a story.
Yes.
Not everyone likes to read novels. I love reading novels. There's hardly any week I don't read a novel. There was a time I used to get flogged for reading too many novels instead of my school books, but it's okay. I looked for a balance. Now that I'm not reading in school, I can read a novel. I'm an adult now and nobody comes to flog me. Okay, but the biggest challenge about Word Book Day seems to still remain developing the reading culture. Before you pass exams in Nigeria, you need to read. Even outside of the country, you have to read. We all need to read. But how then? What can we develop this reading culture? What are the challenges to it? How can we sort it out? So it's a very large question, but I know you have it.
Yes. The reading culture in Nigeria is very, very poor. And that is because a good portion of the population is illiterate. And this also is where you will find the parents and possibly relatives which will encourage a generational shift or transfer of a culture that is virtually absent.
Yeah.
So it's been and it's gotten worse now that people have other things to distract them from reading. Many people read only when they have examination. And when the examination is over, oh my God, throw that aside and then continue with their lives. You know, and if for instance in a home there is no library and there's no habit of reading a book and passing on. In my days, you could take a novel and it passes through about 20 hands, you know, and in quick succession like that. Oh, it's very interesting, very interesting. But now I don't know what the young people are doing with their time, apart from pressing phone, pressing, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, you know, and that takes quite some time.
Sure.
That takes, but when you write on your phone, you can spend hours just pressing your phone and listening, and sometimes they are also reading some stories there, some tales and some fables and all that are coming in there. But now you hardly find young people going to the library and borrowing a book to read and returning it, you know, for the pleasure, except it's related to a course. And even the courses that they are doing, and they also using the internet to get all their stuff. So going to the library to really source for materials and, you know, get educated is on a decline, and it's quite unfortunate. I think it is something we need to develop, and it should start from every home. And you don't necessarily have to be literate before you can encourage your children, you know, to read books. Sometimes if a child is having a birthday, you can give a child an interesting book. Maybe you heard somebody that you yourself you have read, you know, that you know will give the child some life lessons. And even at a wedding, I know some people give out some of my books to their friends when they are wedding, you know. So if we are not intentional, if we are not positively constructive in reviving this culture, we are going to find that, and you know, many people, the novels of old will die in the shelf, and there are still some very useful lessons from the old books, and there are also some new books. You find that there are people apart from writing for school literature. I also want to say that the likes of the authors who write storybooks, apart from Chiro Achebe and all that, There are very few and far between these days. And one would like to encourage young people, and even the old who are on retirement. I know that many people wrote books when they are in their solitude. People, they found time to write, even like former president Obasanjo, and some, but they tell you what they did while they were in solitude, when they were incarcerated, when they were in prison, or when they just didn't have anything else to do but just to stay at the wall, and they took a time to write books. So, and if you ask me, what other books have they written since they left those places? That's just to tell you that people are really forced to develop this habit. It doesn't come naturally, and it really should come naturally. So one would like to encourage every child, every adult, every parent, and every teacher to encourage children to read, and sometimes ask them to summarize what they have read and tell a story. And even at the home, when I come for media program like this, I always advocate for family meetings. That usually in every home there should be a time, maybe once a week or once a month, when the whole family get together to take a chat, and just let everything drop. Let all those disciplinary things, shouting, let all of that drop, and let there be love.
A relaxed atmosphere.
A relaxed atmosphere. Let the child be free to tell you who you are, what you are to them. Let the father be free to talk frankly with the children. So at such times, I will admonish parents to try and give assignments. Just like when I say, okay, let children lead in the family altar prayer time. Let them read a story, to give a sermon or something. Similarly, children can be told to read African stories, Nigerian stories, even stories about where we are, where we come from, and by so doing, children will not lose the heritage that we got at our time.
Sure.
Time is coming, and also one other thing that is of a big challenge is the lingua franca. In our environment, you may think English is the lingua franca, but in Bende, Edo State, ETA is Pidgin. And Pidgin is not written, is not used to write books. I know, like I always share in my development, balance, when they ask us develop communication, IEC materials for people to read, billboard and read all this one, write it in Pidgin. I said, come, is the person that can read, please stop talking, that can also read, I bet not talk again.
Sure.
So if someone is not literate enough to read the good English, you can also not read the Pidgin. So the Pidgin English has somehow also watered down our standard of English, communication in English. And if you were to write, if you were to read, this is what actually matters. And one good thing about reading is that reading helps you to organize your language, how you speak, and you acquire some vocabulary. Well, forget about those who open up dictionary and start
looking for big words.
Reading things out to you. But if you read a novel, time will come, particularly if you are used to a particular author, time will come, you begin to speak like that author. It makes explanations of scenarios and events and all that. Before you know it, if you get to a place like this, you have to talk. It's a free will. You begin to communicate freely. How to communicate ideas, how to communicate world philosophy or some local world views and all that will not be difficult for you. So when you read, it helps you communicate better. And if not for anything else, because oftentimes what causes problem between people is that they are not able to say exactly what is in their mind. Sometimes it's the lack of the vocabulary. I don't know how to say it. I don't know what to say. But if you've read quite widely, you are going to find ways of expressing yourself.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the World Book Day itself. How did you spend this year's World Book Day? What did you do?
Uh, uh, I want to thank God that opportunity came for me to be the Edo State coordinator of the South Professional Women Association, which is a national association. We celebrated the World Book Day in a very special way. I wouldn't know how many organizations had time to really know that it was World Book Day, but we were able to organize like some 5 weeks before April 23rd. We did a program which we call Gift a Child a Book. And gifting a child a book made us to buy maybe a usual literature book for the children. And so we organized reading and summarizing competition among schools, girls' schools to be precise.
Okay.
So four all girls' schools in Benin City took part because the time was so short. We would have really loved to take it round Edo State to the 3 senatorial districts. So, but because of the shortness of time for the preparation and the movement, logistics, we just invited students from Idia College, Yoba College, Itohan Girls Grammar School, and which is the one, you know, 4 of them, Idia College, Yoba, what is it? Okay, Idia College had 2, okay. Idia College 1, Idia College 2, you know. So from the schools, they we asked the principals to announce and to make children volunteer to participate in that competition of reading a book and summarizing it, like telling a story.
Okay.
So they did that within a week, and they sat for an examination, and they wrote without looking at the textbook, without looking at the storybook again, all they read and all, you know, they understood or remembered about the book. And some very intelligent English teachers were asked to mark the assignment, the test papers, and those who did very well, you know, were selected among those who participated. 60 girls from the schools participated in that event, but out of which 6 of them in the different categories, 3 in the junior secondary school category and 3 in the senior secondary school category. And the best of them, we don't want to, I think we've gone through that result now, we don't want to frighten our young again by telling the result of what happened. So the schools that came first and the one that came second and the one that came third were given award and placard and books. All the 60 students that took part in that competition went home with at least 3 books. Wow. Either one English textbook or a biology textbook, and then each of them got the book I wrote, by the grace of God, Questions Guests Ask.
Okay.
This book, I wouldn't know whether you read it at the time when you were in secondary school, but it was almost everywhere, because I remember within 4 weeks we printed 10,000 copies.
Wow.
It went, you know, it was on fire, and every home wanted a copy, and everybody, because the book tells you, you know, text an adolescent child, you know, how to manage her hygiene, how to manage her sexuality, and how to manage emergencies and issues of violence in her environment, and how to avoid getting abused and all that. Okay. So these are the things that mothers really would like to tell their daughters from as early as possible. So, but because many mothers don't have that time, and some of them don't even know how, as soon as they saw that book, oh,
the book was their voice.
This book has done it all. Okay. And because of certain sexual things in the book, mothers actually, you know, there's a culture of silence about anything that has to talk about sex. So the mothers didn't want to say that they are beginning to discuss sex with the children. So I let some of them drop it on top of the center table in the parlor, on top of the television, and then went to bed. But by the next morning, some of them have read the books over and over and have passed into the next house, and you know, so it was quite and it also became a literature for guidance and counseling in some schools. um, for a time now, the Minister of Education is also in the process of reviewing it again for the new edition, for getting it back to the school, because it's a very useful material for the children. Okay. So those were the books that were given to the children that participated in that event, and they all went away very happy. And it was a time, I'm sure many of them would really have not had time to read the story and to think of what did I read, what did they say, what happened there. So it was a good time. I think it's something we like to repeat either before the next World Book Day or towards the next World Book Day, and make it really very official.
Okay, I'm making you talk a lot, but that's the show. I didn't really do anything spectacular on World Book Day, but that's why I moved it to today, so I'm observing my own now. The theme for this year says we should share a story.
Yes.
So I want you to share a story, a very, very short story of maybe a book you read when you were much younger, in primary school, secondary school, or something.
I have it.
Okay.
Well, I can't. There were many books I read, but I cannot forget the story of Abdul. Those who went to school in my time will remember a fable that carried the name of Abdul. Abdul, I don't know, it's what it's called. And Abdul, a man who usually wear a kind of shoe that tipple up somehow like that. So there was a story in the English book 4, Oxford English book 4.
Okay.
Oxford English book 4. The story talks about Abdul. Abdul was a very lazy man, and he always wanted to be a rich person, but he's been looking for ways of getting rich. Thank God it was not a, you might have called him a Yahoo at that time, I wouldn't know. So Abdul wanted, he decided to coin an event that was imaginary, and he told everyone that he had been visited by an angel. An angel has given him something that he wants to give to the king, and on a very auspicious day, the king called for all his special guests, and everyone wanted to know exactly what it is that an angel gave to Abdul to give to the king. And so when the day came, Abdul went to the palace and announced to the king and to everyone there that the angel came and gave him a book that he's going to give that book to the king, and only wise people can see it, and if you are not wise, you cannot see it. And so he gave it to the king, and the king was supposed to also give him a tribute. You usually don't give something to the king and the king does not give you something back. So the king played along. He already said that only the wise people can see it, and if you
the king wants to be wise.
Okay, then you are a clever guy. So the king also now said he has a very big purse, big envelope for Abdul, and only the wise people can also see it.
Wow.
So, and from that book, we all read that there is no shortcut to getting rich and getting money. You must be hardworking. You must, if you play trick, the trick will play back on you. And so, and that was a big lesson we learned from that story.
Interesting.
My age mates out there, I'm sure you remember the story of Abdul. So many stories about Abdul in that English, Oxford English book 4 and some other books.
Interesting. Okay. Yes. People like us, we were reading 3 Billy Goats. Yeah, then Edith Live in Calabar, and all those stories in our English books. But my mom used to get me this series. It's a foreign book. My dad had they schooled in Ibadan then, UI. Yes. So they had this link to Penguin Library in the UK. Yes. So it still was able to get books from there. So we had lots of those little books for children. Yes. Cinderella, the princess who laid on several mattresses and could feel a pain and all that stuff. Books like that. We read. We read those when we were growing up. So Thank you to the Obaisi Agbons for getting those books and making us read it by force as well. But good thing, at some point, some of us just knew that we loved to read more than some. So we that like English in the house, we know ourselves. And those that like maths, like my dad, they know themselves. Okay, you know what? We're going to go on a break quickly so that my guests can at least relax a bit. And when we come back from that break, we'll get talking some more about some pressing issues about books.
Hello. I am a Nigerian child. May 27 is my day. I deserve to be celebrated.
Celebrate. Don't worry, child. Independent Television and Radio has a special package for you. Hooray! Children, celebrate and be celebrated at ITV and Radio Peperepe Samagboza with lots of fun, various competitions with mouth-watering prizes. Parents, guardians, heads of schools, celebrate your children in a grand style at ITV and Radio Peperepe Samagboza. I can't keep myself. Allow me to flex. This program is proudly sponsored by Credibility Building Investment Limited, CBI, Zonal Office, 5 2nd East Circular Road, off Sapele Road, Benin City, Branch Office, Suite 13, Ede Shopping Plaza, Phase 2, Vegetable Market, off Airport Road, Benin City.
Father of the Day, Bishop Dr. Okodigie Osayuki Charles.
General Overseer, Anointed Brethren Church Incorporated, and Coordinator, General Conference of Clergy Incorporated. Orange Woods Limited, 32 Akiambare Street, off Iyama Road, GRA, Benin City. Scottish Post Limited, post betting at your fingertips, impacting lives through post betting. Head office number 62 Arosa Street, off First East Circular Road, Benin City. Edo State Branch Office number 2 Futep Shopping Plaza, Refinery Junction, Efron, Delta State. 0806 551 9458. Get Rich Global Properties, Kilometer 10 Our Meeting Plaza, opposite Rock of Ages, First Obed Junction, Sapele Road, Benin City. Supported by Jonasco Technical Enterprise, JJ Owa Junction, Upper Mission Extension, Ute Quarters, close to Temboga Market, Benin City. Edosma Electrical Services, Dealers and Generator, number 61, Wire Road, Benin City. Bishop Dr. Okodi Kingsley, Christ Millennium Assembly International Incorporated, number 1, Okundaye Street, beside Olua Primary School, Uselu Shell, Benin City. Date, Thursday, 27th May 2021. Time, 10 a.m. on the dot. Jerusalem. ITV Radio Peperepe Samagboza. Boza.
Richard didn't want to die, but he couldn't stop himself. The collision with the car didn't kill him, but he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he continued on his journey. When he hit the inside of the car, that didn't kill him either. But his internal organs carried on traveling until they hit his ribcage, and his lungs were punctured, and the main artery from his heart was torn. And that's what killed Richard.
Alright, thank you for staying tuned. This is still Flipside on ITV, and we're talking about the World Book Day that took place on the 23rd of April. So we're talking about challenges that deal with that relates to reading in general. So we've talked about the reading culture, we've talked about the theme for the year 2021. At this time, I want to talk about something else. You mentioned library. I have a guest, of course, in the house, Dr. Nusa Aladishelu, who is the state coordinator of the South Professional Women's Association. She's also the founding president of the African Women Empowerment Guild, and she's a doctor. She has a Doctor of Philosophy in Guidance and Counseling. She's an author of many books. We even talked about one on the show. Now, you said something about libraries, and you were saying people hardly use the libraries now. We have one Edo State Library at Sapele Road that I've never been to, because I've heard stories and I should be inquisitive enough to go for myself to confirm them. But do you really think that it's a good investment for states to keep investing in libraries? presently, because all we find in these libraries are old books, and you mentioned that our generation would rather press their phones, so we also can get access to ebooks, especially the new books. So do you think it's a wise venture to still keep maintaining a state library?
Oh yes, very much so. And if anything, there's more investment to establishing and maintaining libraries. I will also advocate that libraries should be built in local communities, not just in the city center. And I remember T.Y. Danjuma Foundation, sponsored some NGOs to build some libraries in Edo North and Edo Central when I was monitoring expert for their programs, and I quite appreciated that initiative. So I will want the state government to ensure that the library in Benin City, and maybe in other, and to also establish the same in the 18 local government areas, so that it's not only the urban students, urban children that should have the benefit of these libraries, and the library should be stocked with books. Usually, many libraries depend on donations, but conscious effort should be made to look out for the books that children. And right now, I quite appreciate a situation whereby, on some social events, some musicians or song makers, who are running their time right now. They are invited to entertain, at different fora. So it's also good that in these libraries we also have such films, we have videos, we have things that talks about the immediate environment, so that someone can just go to the library. Apart from reading a book, you can just go there, because it's not there are some of the documentaries that you can't be found in many family libraries. So they are just there at the state library. So there are very important documentations that should be shared to the public. And about this state, for instance, what Edo State has gone through since 1992, a student should go to the library and be able to read it, because that creates national, it improves citizenship, as it were. So I would very much appreciate if governments will spend more money, building libraries and establishing such in local communities, apart from they want, so that some of the children, right today, if a child is doing examination or doing anything, either local examination or national examination, there's need for the use of the computer and the internet and all that. So there are so many local communities that don't have that access. There should also be a digital facility in such libraries, where a child can also surf the net and read on some e-books, and then also begin to know something about the outside world, a place, so that you don't have to come to Benin before you have access to such things. And or those who have to do these examinations from there. I know that in the University of Benin, University of Ife, now apart from Awolowo University, some of these other universities, they all have their libraries being updated. So states should also do so. I would quite appreciate the fact that state governments are investing more in library and also encouraging. It's just as we ask people to make good use of the roads and good sanitation and all that, we should also use the same media to advise parents, advise adults, to get to do reading this, revive this reading culture. I appreciate some who stand every morning at the news stand. They call it a reader stand. Some reading for free, and I got to know that there are some you have to also pay some money so that you can become a regular, visitor to that news stand, so that you can read all the newspapers for the day. And I looking through passing such places early in the morning these days, I don't find any young person doing that. Apart from their phones. So I'm sure maybe the young people are reading the news from their phone. That phone they are pressing. Are they reading the news? Are they watching ITV? Are they reading? Are they listening to NTA? So it is very, very important that the young persons should get to know, have information about their environment. Very, very important. It's not enough to begin to look for, whatever it is that they are doing on the phone to improve themselves. It should also include, getting more aware about your immediate environment, and the outside.
Okay, talking about our generation, we love fun. we want excitement. We thrive on such things. So I'm not saying that government should now start creating concerts for us to come and read books, no. But what do you feel will be the most exciting and effective, how will you describe the most effective or exciting learning environment?
Good. I would, in the first instance, advocate that schools should take their children out on excursion, not only to ITV, but to the library.
Okay.
Because far too many children don't know how to use the library because there is no one in their school. If they had one in their school, then they will know how to search for a book, how to enter the little cupboard and begin to flip through the different slides to know where the book is located and which section, and all that. So that could be an excursion. That could be an educational activity for the children. But because if a child gets to know that, you mean I can get the textbook I could not get to read for my examination. If I go to the state library, I can read it. I can just get it free, and I can. If the textbook was too expensive for my father to buy, rather than wait for my turn with my colleagues who were able to buy, I can as well just go and access the same textbook, on the shelf. So I think it will be very useful if school children are taken out on excursion to visit libraries. And then again, schools, we used to have debating club, and other clubs in the schools. Principals and the school inspectors should encourage the formation of readers clubs. Readers clubs. Well, from the activity of the South Professional Women Association last week, we made the heroes, the winners of our competition, to raise readers club from their schools. And it was not just the 3 students that came first, second, and third. There were other awards to other people who did very well, best in their school, best in the particular section, and so on. So we have encouraged them to go to their schools and establish readers club, so that if you enjoy this exercise we did for 2 weeks, then of course take it to your peers, teach your classmates what you gain, what you can benefit by reading and by visiting the library. So if that is done, those who are in the readers club will of necessity be attached to one library or the other. And occasional competition, just like we have the best student in maths being celebrated globally now, and that happens to be that happens to be a girl. So just as that is, we could also have the school year should also have a calendar for children competing at different categories of readership, so that at every time the way we have turned our children mentality to now is examination competition. Unless a competition is tied to it, nobody reads. So, but it is something that at least they start from somewhere that can ignite something better, later on. So I think that if this is Ministry of Education and partnership with the schools and maybe some NGOs, we are able to organize in the school calendar one day where we celebrate the best reader in the state, or the best reader in the school, the best reader in the local government, and the best reader in the community. That will begin to ignite something new, and everyone begin to go and read. Oh, what are they reading for now? And usually there's no syllabus to it, so you just like a book, read it, and then tell your story, and the syllabus just hints on that. So I'm sure that if we put that competition in place, it will also encourage
An exciting environment.
Yes,
definitely.
A good environment.
Sure.
You know, and we also, like I said, while we're looking at challenges and how to resolve such challenges, today, if your daughter is celebrating her 5th birthday, her 21st birthday, her 16th birthday, I know girls and adolescents like to celebrate 16. So, send some books. Give her quite a volume of books, interesting books to read, and I'm sure by the time she sees it, she's not going to just tuck it away. She knows that you are very concerned about her reading those books, so she would create time to read. So I think if we make gifts of giving books at such special occasions of celebration, it will also be a conducive environment for people getting to liking reading again.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about writing. You will not have books to read without the authors.
Yes.
But we have a problem that many people seem to be talking about in Nigeria. The books I read when I was in primary school, all those Macmillan, and they had very wonderful covers. You said a novel could go through 20 hands, and that was true. There were books, my elder one, I'm the last of 8 children. Yeah. So the books, the one before me used and gave to me, or even before she gave it to me, the one before her used it, and you know, we keep transferring it, you now cancel their name. So it got to a point when my dad buys a book for the older person, just says put Oba Isagbon's library, don't put your name. And so we kept moving books from hands to hands, and when you're done with that class, there's no child in the house going through that stage again. You give to a cousin, you give to a neighbor. These books they lasted, even the notebooks lasted. But now most of the books we have, the quality are so poor. You open a novel, a storybook, a literature book in school, and the pages are already pulling out. The back is halfway turned and all that stuff. So people complain that Nigerian books are irritating to even read compared to the foreign books we buy. You buy a foreign book, the binding is fine, the lettering is fine, the paper quality is just on point. So you are you're an author.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges you people who write are facing, and what ways would you suggest to resolve them?
There are some that can be resolved, and there are some that will take long to be resolved. In the first instance, hardly will you find authors now committing their work to standard publishers. Many authors become their own publishers, and they're in a hurry to publish. They write a book, maybe they just look at an event, and some books, you know, I don't know, some are a little bigger than a pamphlet, and you also call that a book, and it goes everywhere. So I think that has lend credence to the reduction, to the decline in the standard, and it's something that authors should begin. Then the publishers put a very strong condition, you know, in place for authors to comply, and usually some authors, when they write book these days, they are looking for quick turnover of money. And usually I told someone who wrote a book the other day and invited me for the lunch, and he was looking for how he can get money. He actually needed money. If you want money, don't write a book. I can tell you that straight away. If you want money, don't write a book. Go do something else to make the money with which you can publish the book, and it will go for it. But because usually, oftentimes, when after writing a book, we want to launch it. After launching it, we want to make sure. And this, and so for some of the authors, an author can write a book and print like maybe 100 copies or even 50 copies, you know, and then a book is written. So usually, when you have a large readership for a book, the book will sell itself. It's the content of a book that makes the book to sell. Not necessarily because you want to get money. If you want to get rich, my brother, don't even write a book. Go do something else, because that has hastened many authors to write a book. And sometimes, because the process of writing and publishing a quality book takes such a time. Sometimes some of them just write. Like when I was made the editor for my Christian Association, Christian Women Association, and it came to a point I just thought, I said, come, some of these books I see paraded here in this convention, half of them are in pidgin. Please, let's find a way to standardize so that if it's only one book we are bringing out, let's not bring one book and let it be a good book that by the time our association takes the book to America, to England, to everywhere, it will speak for us, not some of these things. So you'll find that some of the authors don't get to standardize their production. You are supposed to get somebody who should proofread, another person who will use his own authority to sell what the content, because that person you have read it, and that's the person that writes the foreword. The foreword, FOREWORD. The foreword is supposed to be written by a professional who understands the content of what you are selling, and who will, when some people look at the person who writes the foreword, they can go further there to read the book. But some of the books go out without a foreword. Some of the books go out without those necessary things. What things should a book have? Many authors rush to print their book and publish their book without looking at those things. So I think authors should look back and ensure that whatever material at least you are putting out there, it's not going to be easy for you to go and correct your grammar again. So therefore, it's a good take your time, take your time, and make sure that and it's for all time. Sometimes someone can read your book when you are long gone. So why just hurry to go and print it? All because you think that there is a meeting. When this meeting, by the time they advertise my book, that's another thing. By the time they advertise my book, then everybody gets to buy it. And so usually there's this money thing about book, and that shouldn't be the first priority in writing a book. If you want to write a book, there must be something you want to sell to the public, an idea. I must sell it in the best language. And therefore, you might want to go and do a short course, maybe a diploma in English, written English. Usually, written English is also different from conversational English.
Okay.
So by the time you write your book in a conversational English, some people are going to be put off when they are reading. So this looks like a kind of drama in I don't want to say which station now. This looks like a kind of drama, and they let alone those who write songs in near pidgin, in their production. So that is then the other one I said might find a long time is the fact that when you have to write a book, you will appreciate a very large readership, and that is not under your control. That's not under your control. So, and you expect that while you get there, you are able to pay for the printing and publishing. Usually, printing and publishing, they are different. Some of the authors don't know this. You can get somebody a good printer, but these days we have the desktop printing. It's everywhere. Unlike those days, things have improved so much for authors. There were those times. When I started, somebody need to typeset, and use the typewriter, and I die. You do it, and then but if there's a mistake on one page, you start from the very beginning
First
again.
word.
But now you can correct every page, every line, all on its own, and move along. So things have gotten easier, but the standards should not go down.
Good.
That's what.
Okay, and the last question I'm going to ask you on the show today before I let you go, I'm going to talk a little bit about book fairs.
Okay.
Now, I rarely will talk about books without that.
Yes.
And some people don't even know what book fairs are because they've never experienced it. Okay, luckily for me, I heard a lot about book fairs, but until I got to Uniben, I didn't have the experience. But in Uniben, we were lucky to have several book fairs. I'm very sure those libraries got permission from the school. I mean, you cannot just come into school and display books like that. And these books were sold so cheaply. Sometimes they even sell CDs in the book fairs. I bought books. There was one they did. They'll say buy one get one free. My God, I used all my feeding money to buy books. Then I called them and said I needed to buy materials. God forgive me. But there were so many novels I wanted to get, and there were novels for children too. I was an adult, but I love reading children books. I still watch cartoons even till now. So I bought a lot and said I will read them. My children will read them. So I had lots of books I bought, even to Gulliver's Travel that I've read before. I saw a foreign copy of it, I bought. But what's the future of book fairs? Since I left Uniben, I have not been to any book fair.
Thanks to COVID, many exhibitions have also been very few and far between. And for a little more than 3 years now, I've also not seen the advertisement for a book fair, you know, coming to town. But I know that in some years past, you could go to a book fair, usually at Imagwero. The last one I attended was at Imagwero, where different publishers bring their books, and you know, and it's usually very interesting environment for you to see books, some old, some new, and for different for the science, for the arts, you know, for different professions, you know, and all that. So book fairs are very useful because they bring everything to the same place. And usually they sell cheaper than at the bookshop. So I'm not surprised that Daisy ended up in the media because she has flair for reading and for communicating. So congratulations to you for keeping up to that interest and bringing you here. So I would want to encourage publishers to come around again. I think the COVID fears are getting less, and the cities are opening up, the countries are opening up more or less, so that we should have more publishers, both national and international. You know, I think the copyright thing has also encouraged more of homegrown publishers and publishing companies than the foreign ones. So I think a mixture of both will do good for each and every one of us to try and see that people have opportunities to really go through. There are some of the novels I read before that I would like to read again, but until I see them, I might not even remember all. True. And I might not even have, you know, an opportunity to also know that some new authors have emerged, you know. So it's very educative event for us to have book fairs. I will encourage authors, publishers, and printers to put out many books out there for people to explore for educational purposes, for their family, for their children, and possibly able to get a good book for a birthday present for the next friend who is celebrating 50th, 60th, or even 70th like me.
Oh, you look younger. Okay, I want to say thank you, Doctor, for your time today. I've had fun. I love talking about books. It's not my fault. I grew up with it, and we never ever stop reading. I love to read. I've tried writing, but I think I suck at it. I'm terrible. I'm not a good writer. So it's not my calling. I'm going to leave it for those who can write. Let them write, then I'll just keep reading. So let everyone get someone a book to mark the World Book Day. It might have happened last week. We're just talking about it this week. So nothing stops you from getting a book, from getting one book today for someone you care about, a child, an adult, someone who's retired, who's just at home. It could be a magazine, it could be a novel, it could be a Christian literature, it could be an history book. Many of us don't even know our history. So get someone a book today to mark the World Book Day and share stories with your children. Those stories are very helpful. They might not even be real, but they create so much memories, especially when they're gone. I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi. Thanks a lot for your time. We'll be back again next week with a fresh edition of the show.